All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into what the Canadian government tells us about being an international student in Canada.
Sounds good.
It could be pretty overwhelming,
Yeah.
all the forms, the requirements.
Absolutely. It's a huge decision.
Right, so we've got all this official info. We're going to try to break it down. Like, what's the actual process of applying?
Okay, yeah.
What are your options for working, both doing your studies and after you graduate? And how do you even go about extending your stay if you need to? We want to make this your roadmap, basically.
Awesome.
Let's start at the very beginning. You're outside of Canada, and you're thinking, okay, I want to study there.
Right.
Where do I even begin? So, step one.
First things first, you're going to need that study permit.
Okay.
And potentially a visitor visa, too, depending on your nationality.
Right. So the study permit, that's the big one.
Exactly. And to get that, you've got to meet certain eligibility criteria.
Like what?
Well, the most important one is you need a letter of acceptance from what they call a designated learning institution, or a DLI. These are schools the government has basically said, yep, these are good for international students.
Approved.
Exactly.
So you've got your acceptance letter from your DLI. What else?
And here's a big one, especially since January of 2024. Most applicants also need something called a provincial or territorial attestation letter.
Okay, what?
A provincial or territorial attestation letter, we call it a 2L or TLA for short.
OL or TL, okay.
Basically, it just confirms there's actually space for you in that province's allocation of international students.
Oh, interesting. So it's like, hey, we have room for you here.
Yeah, exactly. Each province or territory has their own system. Quebec's a little different. They have their own version called a CAQ.
The CAQ, got it.
Right. And on top of those, standard stuff, you've got to show you have enough money for tuition, living expenses, your trip back home. You have to have a clean criminal record, be in good health, and show that you actually intend to leave Canada after your studies are done.
Of course. Makes sense. And obviously, a valid passport.
You got it. So you've got all your ducks in a row, you know what you need. How do you actually apply for this thing?
Yeah, because I'm picturing like mountains of paperwork.
It's mostly online now, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
You'll be using something called the IRCC portal.
The IRCC portal, got it.
That's where you'll upload all your documents, things like your letter of acceptance, your PL or TL, passport, proof of funds. You'll also need to fill out specific forms.
Which forms?
The main one is called IMM 1294. It's your actual study permit application. There are others too, like IMM 5707 for family information, IMM 5483 for family members coming with you, and you'll submit everything online.
Okay, yeah.
You pay your application fee. It's currently 150 Canadian dollars. And depending on your age, you'll probably need to provide what they call biometrics.
Biometrics, like fingerprints and stuff.
Exactly, fingerprints and a photo. They're usually valid for 10 years. You'll get instructions on how to do that after you submit your application. Then you basically wait for a decision.
And the waiting game begins.
It does. And that's why it's super important to apply early. Processing times can vary depending on where you're applying from.
That makes sense. Give yourself lots of time. Now, let's say you've got your study permit, you're in Canada, you're all settled in, you're hitting the books, but maybe you're also thinking, man, I wouldn't mind earning a little extra cash.
Of course, who wouldn't?
Right. So working while you're studying, what's the deal with that?
Good news is you can usually work while you study.
Really?
Yeah, both on campus and off campus, and you don't need a separate work permit for that. But there are some rules, of course.
Rules. There are always rules.
Always rules. First off, you're going to need a social insurance number or a sign. You can't work legally without it.
Makes sense.
Now, for off-campus work, generally, you need to be enrolled full-time at a DLI, specifically a post-secondary one, so that's like your colleges and universities. Your program needs to be at least 6 months long and has to lead to a degree, diploma, or certificate.
Got it.
And your study permit has to specifically say you're allowed to work off campus. Some permits have restrictions on them.
Oh, I see. So you really have to check the fine print on your permit.
Absolutely. And another important thing, you're usually not eligible for off-campus work if you're just taking ESL or FSL courses or general interest courses.
So it's really geared towards people who are in a degree or diploma program.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm in a degree program. My study permit says I can work off campus. What about the hours?
Right. So during the academic terms, the limit is 24 hours per week. But during scheduled breaks, like summer or winter break, you can work as many hours as you want.
Oh, that's nice.
As long as you were a full-time student before the break, and you'll be full-time again afterward.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about working on campus?
On campus is a little different. As long as you're full-time at a qualifying DLI, usually a public school or a specific type of private school, and your study permit allows on-campus work, you can work as much as you want.
Oh, wow. Unlimited hours.
Unlimited, as long as you stay full-time.
Right.
Once you drop to part-time, you have to stop working, unless it's your final semester. Then there's a bit of leeway.
Okay.
Also, you have to stop working on campus if your study permit expires, you take authorized leave from your studies, or you change schools without a current study permit.
Got it. So many details to keep track of. Now, what if your studies are going great and you're thinking, I'm not ready to leave yet, I want to stay longer?
Totally. So extending your study permit, that's done from within Canada.
Okay.
And you have to apply at least 30 days before your current permit expires.
Right.
And keep in mind, your new permit can't go past the expiry date of your passport. You'll need a new letter of acceptance from your DLI or some other proof of enrollment.
Okay, got it.
And if you're changing schools or study levels after January 22nd, 2025, you'll likely need a new PELA or TEL as well, though there are some exceptions to that rule.
Right.
Of course, you'll also need to prove you still have enough money to support yourself and show that you've mostly been a full-time student and followed the rules of your original permit.
So you're basically proving you've been a good student.
Pretty much. The application itself is online again through your IRCC Secure account.
Okay, so online's the way to go. Now, let's say you applied for the extension before your permit actually expires. What happens then?
Well, in that case, you're granted something called maintain status. Basically, it means you can legally keep studying under the same conditions as your old permit while you wait for the decision on your new one.
Oh, okay, so you're not in limbo.
Exactly. But if you let your permit expire before you applied, then you lose your student status.
Uh-oh.
And while you might be able to apply to get it back within 90 days, that comes with an extra fee on top of the regular application fee.
So don't let it expire, that's the lesson.
Definitely. Apply for the extension early. Okay, so imagine you've graduated, congratulations. Now you're thinking, okay, what about working after graduation? I'd love to stay in Canada.
That's the dream for many people, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and that's where the post-graduation work permit comes in, the PGWP.
Okay, the PGWP, we hear a lot about that.
For good reason. It's an open work permit, so you don't need a job offer lined up beforehand.
That was a big deal.
It is. It can be valid for up to 3 years, and it's a really popular pathway to becoming a permanent resident.
Wow. So what do you need to be eligible for this magical PGWP?
Well, you need to have graduated from a designated learning institution, a DLI, that's eligible for the PGWP. And your specific program has to be PGWP eligible too. Not all of them are.
Ah, so you have to do your research beforehand.
Definitely. Before you even start studying. The program also has to be at least 8 months long.
8 months, okay.
And you have to have been a full-time student for the most part, except maybe for your final semester, where part-time is usually fine. You also need to apply for the PGWP within 180 days of receiving your final grades. And your study permit has to have been valid at some point during those 180 days.
All right, 180 days, a lot of deadlines to keep in mind. So you said not all programs at DLIs are eligible for the PGWP. How do you know which ones are?
Yeah, it's super important to check. Generally, your bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees are good, as are a lot of diploma programs from colleges and polytechnics. But if you got your study permit after November 1st, 2024, there might be some extra requirements for certain programs, especially related to your field of study.
Oh, I see. So newer permits, more specific requirements.
Right. Now, how long the PGWP lasts depends on how long your study program was. If it was shorter than 2 years, you might get a PGWP for the same length of time.
Okay.
But if your program was 2 years or longer, then you could get a 3-year PGWP.
Oh, wow. 3 years. That's great.
And a bonus. If you finished a master's degree that was at least 8 months long after February 15th, 2024, you might also qualify for a 3-year PGWP. Your passport's expiry date can also limit the length, though. Can't go past that.
Right, of course. Passports, always got to keep an eye on those. Yeah. Now, any recent changes to the PGWP that people should be aware of?
Yeah, actually. For most people applying after November 1st, 2024, there's now a minimum language proficiency requirement. You need to prove your English or French is good enough.
How do you prove that?
Usually through a language test, you need to reach a certain level like CLB-7 or NCLC-7 in all 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
Oh, wow, all 4 skills.
There are some exceptions, though, like for certain flight school programs. And on top of that, like we said, there might be specific field of study requirements for some programs. Plus, if you start your program on or after September 1st, 2024, at least 50% of it has to be done in Canada in person.
Oh, so no more fully online programs from abroad if you want the PGWP.
Right, and if you did study outside Canada, that time gets deducted from your potential PGWP length. They're also changing things up with those public-private curriculum agreements, so definitely stay updated on all that.
Got it. Always be checking for updates. So much to keep in mind. But hey, if you can handle the Canadian winter, you can handle this, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so big picture, key things to remember. What would you say?
Okay, first off, always choose a designated learning institution, a DLI, that's non-negotiable for a study permit.
ELI, check.
And if you're thinking about the PGWP down the line, double, triple check that both the DLI and your specific program are eligible.
Okay, noted. What else?
Follow the rules of your study permit. Like, seriously, don't mess around with that. Stay enrolled, respect the work hour limits, all that good stuff.
Right, don't jeopardize your status.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. There are tons of resources out there. The IRCC Help Center, the Client Support Center if it's urgent, newcomer services, even virtual learning resources on the IRCC website for pathways to permanent residency.
Wow, so much support available.
There is. And definitely check out EduCanada too for more info about the Canadian education system.
EduCanada,
Yeah.
okay. And of course, the holy grail of information, the IRCC website.
Canada.ca. It's your best friend. Keep checking it for the latest updates and policy changes. Things change all the time.
Yeah, stay informed. That's key. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Hopefully, this deep dive gives everyone a much clearer picture of what it actually means to be an international student in
I
Canada.
hope so.
It can feel overwhelming, but knowing the steps, understanding the process, it makes a huge difference.
For sure.
And remember, this is just a general overview. Everyone's situation is unique.
Yeah, it's personalized.
So always consult the official government resources for the most accurate and personalized information for your specific circumstance.
That's
All right, so after all this info, what are you feeling most prepared to explore further? What parts of studying or working in Canada are sparking your interest? This is just the beginning of your journey, and we're here to help you navigate it.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive, and until next time, happy exploring.